The day I turned 23, I walked through the door holding a cheap cake I bought for myself. My mother barely looked up and told me everything was on pause because my sister's needs came first. I left before sunrise. A decade later, I'm a millionaire, and they won't stop calling. My name is Aaron Cole. The day everything stopped was the day I turned 23. No one marked it on a calendar except me. No one planned anything. That part did not surprise me. Birthdays in that house had always followed a rule that never changed. If my younger sister needed something, everything else paused. If she did not, then the day moved on like any other. The cake cost $7. It came from a grocery store near the bus stop. White frosting, no writing because adding words doubled the price. Carrying it home felt strange. A box in both hands, plastic handle, cutting into fingers, walking past neighbors who did not know anything about me. That cake was not about celebration. It was proof that I had not vanished yet. The front door opened to the same smell that had been there for years. Cleaning spray mixed with something burnt. Shoes lined up by the wall, none of them mine. The television played in the living room. My sister sat on the couch, blanket around her shoulders, phone glowing in her face. My mother stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, staring at a stack of mail like it had personally offended her. The box went on the counter. A simple action. No announcement followed. My mother looked up once, eyes flat, then said that everything was on pause today. She said my sister had a hard morning. She said we would deal with other things later. That word, pause, landed harder than anything else. Not canceled, not delayed. Pause. As if my life was a remote control she held without asking. No one asked where I had been. No one asked what the box was. The cake stayed closed. Standing there felt like being invisible in a room where everyone knew my outline, but chose not to see it. Years of that feeling had trained my body to stay still, to not react, to not ask for space. Growing up in that house meant learning early how to be quiet. My sister needed more attention. That was the explanation given for everything. School meetings, doctor visits, emergencies real or imagined. I learned to make my own food, learned to sign my own forms. Learned to stop bringing friends home because they asked questions I could not answer without sounding bitter. My father had left when I was 16. Not dramatic. Just gone one morning. No notes. No fight. His absence folded into the routine like it had always belonged there. After that, money became tight. Expectations did not change. Bills were discussed openly. Needs were ranked without shame. Mine always fell to the bottom. College never happened. After high school, work replaced plans. Retail first, then warehouse shifts, then anything that paid without asking too many questions. Every paycheck went to the same place. Rent, utilities, food, my share, even when that share was decided after the fact. Saving money felt selfish in that house. That day, holding the cake, something finally broke clean instead of bending. The pause felt permanent. It felt like the future shrinking into a waiting room with no door. The cake stayed on the counter. No one moved toward it. My sister kept scrolling. My mother returned to the mail. The room felt smaller than it had minutes before. Breathing took effort. Words built up in my throat, but none of them mattered. Explaining would not change anything. Explaining never had. The bedroom was the same size it had been since high school. Posters long gone. A mattress on a frame. A dresser with a broken drawer. Packing took less time than expected. Clothes went into a duffel bag. Work shoes followed. A folder with documents slid into the side pocket. Nothing else felt worth taking. Objects tied to that house carried weight I no longer wanted. Keys sat on the table near the door. A habit drilled into me since childhood. Never lose them. Never forget them. That night, they stayed there. Leaving them felt right. Like cutting a cord instead of stretching it. The clock on the microwave read 11:48 p.m. No one noticed me crossing the living room. No one asked where I was going. No one said goodbye. The door closed without sound. The porch light flickered once, then stayed on. The street was empty. Air felt cooler than it should have been. Walking away without a plan sounds dramatic when written down. At the time, it felt calm. Heavy but calm. Years of being told to wait had trained patience. This was different. This was choosing motion instead of pause. The duffel bag rested against my leg at the bus stop. The cake stayed behind. That part hurt more than expected. Not because of the cake itself, but because it marked the last attempt to matter in that space. Leaving it felt like leaving proof behind. The bus came late. The city lights blurred through the window. No destination mattered yet. Distance did. Every block felt like a small release. Thoughts came fast, then slowed. Fear tried to speak up. It did not win. There was no room for it. That night ended on a bench near the station. Head against the wall, bag under my arm, phone nearly dead. No messages came in. No missed calls. That confirmed what already felt true. Morning came without ceremony. The day after my birthday started without anyone knowing where I was. That was the moment everything stopped being theirs and started becoming mine. The first week moved on instinct. Sleep happened in pieces. A bench, then a floor, then a couch that belonged to a coworker who did not ask questions. Pride burned at first, then dulled. Hunger handled the rest. Work became the anchor. Showing up on time mattered more than anything else. Shifts doubled when possible. Overtime became normal. The body adjusted faster than the mind. Money came in and left just as fast. A prepaid phone plan replaced the old one. New number. No one from home tried to reach out anyway. That silence felt sharp at first, then clean. Each quiet day proved something important. Nothing collapsed because I left. No emergency followed. No sudden need appeared that required my return. Couches turned into short-term rooms. Short-term rooms turned into a shared apartment with 3 strangers who barely spoke. Rent took most of each paycheck. Groceries stayed basic. Meals repeated. That did not bother me. Control mattered more than comfort. Paying bills on time felt better than any celebration I remembered. Work stayed physical. Warehouse floors, loading docks, inventory rooms with no windows. The hours drained everything, but also built something steady. Muscles hardened. Hands cracked and healed again. Fatigue replaced worry. That trade felt fair. Mistakes happened. Missed buses. Late fees. A paycheck delayed once that almost ended everything. Each problem forced learning. Budgeting stopped being optional. Tracking expenses became routine. Saving $10 felt like winning something real. No safety net waited below. That knowledge kept focus sharp. Weeks passed without calls. Months followed. Holidays came and went without invitations. Watching coworkers complain about family dinners felt strange. Listening without commenting became a skill. Explaining my situation required effort I did not want to spend. Silence worked better. The absence of contact started to settle into something solid. Not relief, not anger, just space. That space allowed thought without interruption. Patterns from childhood became clear once distance removed the noise. The way needs were ranked. The way attention was traded. The way love came with conditions that shifted without warning. Guilt tried to surface now and then. It never stayed long. Guilt requires a belief that leaving caused harm. No proof of harm appeared. Bills kept getting paid without me. Lives continued. That realization changed something deep. Responsibility had been assigned, not chosen. After 6 months, a room replaced the couch. A door that closed. A lock that worked. The first night, sleeping there felt unreal. Silence filled the space without pressure. No television noise from another room. No footsteps pacing the hallway. Just quiet that belonged to me. That room did not fix everything. Loneliness showed up in new ways. Weekends stretched long. Free time exposed habits built around reacting to others. Learning how to rest took effort. Reading helped. Long walks helped more. Movement burned off thoughts that tried to pull me backward. Work opportunities expanded slowly. Reliability mattered more than talent in those places. Showing up early counted. Volunteering for bad shifts counted more. A supervisor noticed. Extra responsibility followed. Pay increased by small amounts. Those small increases changed everything. Debt from the past stayed behind. No shared accounts. No joint bills. That clean break mattered. Credit started from nothing. A secured card helped. Paying it off every month became a rule. Building something invisible felt strange but necessary. A year passed. Then another. The city changed around me. Construction replaced empty lots. Stores opened and closed. My life moved quietly alongside it. No one from home reached out. That silence stopped hurting. It became expected. Looking back at that time now, survival did not feel heroic. It felt narrow. Each day focused on the next need. Food, rent, sleep. That focus built strength without announcing it. Independence grew without ceremony. Trust became selective. Friendships formed slowly. Shared experiences mattered more than shared history. People who respected boundaries stayed. Those who pushed it not. Learning to say no took practice. Saying it without explanation took longer. The idea of going back crossed my mind once or twice during the hardest months. Each time, the memory of the cake stopped it. Not the cake itself, but the moment, the pause. That memory stayed clear. Returning would mean accepting that pause again. That option no longer existed. By the end of the second year, life stabilized. Nothing felt easy, but nothing felt impossible either. Bills got paid. Work stayed steady. The room turned into a small apartment. Furniture came secondhand. Each piece earned its place. Silence from home continued. No birthdays. No holidays. No updates. That told its own story. Being missed usually shows itself. This did not. Accepting that truth hurt less than pretending otherwise. Survival turned into routine. Routine turned into confidence. Confidence stayed quiet. There was no one to prove anything to. That mattered more than I understood at the time. That period ended without a clear line. No single moment marked the shift. One day simply felt different, less fragile, less temporary. The next step waited ahead, unannounced but finally possible. Stability created room for decisions that went beyond survival. The first one involved leaving. The city that carried me through those early years held too many reminders of scraping by. Nothing wrong with it, but growth needed distance. Packing again felt different this time. No rush, no panic, just intent. The move came with risk. Savings barely covered 3 months. Work lined up through a referral, not a promise. The apartment was smaller than advertised and farther from everything. None of that mattered. The choice belonged to me. That fact carried weight. The new city moved faster. Rent cost more. Competition showed up everywhere. Work demanded skills instead of just endurance. That exposed gaps I could not ignore. Learning became necessary. Nights filled with tutorials, manuals, and trial runs. Mistakes happened in private. Fixing them happened the same way. The first business idea started small. A service, not a product. Low overhead. Skills-based. I offered work others avoided because it required patience and consistency. Early clients paid little. Some paid late. A few never paid at all. Contracts fixed that. Each failure sharpened judgment. Balancing a job with a side business stretched time thin. Days started early. Nights ended late. Burnout hovered close. Pushing through without strategy would have ended everything. Adjustments followed. Better scheduling. Dropping bad clients. Charging what the work was worth instead of what felt polite. That first year nearly ended the business. Equipment broke. A larger competitor undercut prices. Cash flow stalled. Pana tried to take over. It did not win. The job covered rent. The business paused growth instead of collapsing. That restraint saved it. Learning accounting basics changed everything. Understanding numbers removed fear. Tracking expenses exposed waste. Margins became clear. Decisions improved. The business stopped being a gamble and started becoming a system. Failure stayed quiet. No announcements. No sympathy. That silence helped. Recovery happened without pressure. Each small win counted. A returning client. A referral. A month that closed in the black. By the third year, the job became optional. Letting it go felt risky. Holding on to it felt heavier. After months of hesitation, the decision happened on an ordinary morning. The resignation email stayed short. No speeches. No explanations. Walking out that day felt like crossing a line I'd stared at for years. Full-time ownership demanded more than expected. Responsibility followed everywhere. Sick days cost money. Vacations did too. The trade-off felt fair. Effort directly shaped outcome. That clarity kept motivation steady. The fourth year brought growth that felt earned. Rates increased without pushback. Clients respected boundaries. Work filled the calendar without chasing it. Hiring help became necessary. Letting go of control proved harder than starting from nothing. Trust had to be built again, this time on different terms. Systems replaced improvisation. Documentation replaced memory. The business ran even when attention drifted. That shift changed everything. Income stabilized. Savings grew. Options appeared. The first major purchase was boring by design. Reliable transportation. Paid in full. No debt. That choice reflected lessons learned the hard way. Flash never mattered. Security did. The fifth year marked real freedom. Not wealth in the way people imagine, but space. Space to refuse bad deals. Space to take breaks without fear. Space to plan long-term. Investments followed. Simple ones. Slow ones. Watching numbers grow without constant effort felt unreal. Throughout all of it, contact from home never came. Not once. That absence shaped expectations. No part of the success belonged to them. No assistance. No advice. No encouragement. That truth mattered. It kept boundaries firm without effort. Occasionally, memories surfaced uninvited. Moments from childhood replayed with new understanding. Patterns once accepted now looked different. Distance sharpened perspective. Blame lost interest. Clarity replaced it. Success changed how people treated me. Respect showed up quicker. Opinions carried more weight. That contrast stung at times. Value should not depend on output, but experience proved otherwise. Accepting that reality made navigating it easier. The life built during those years stood on quiet foundations. No drama. No announcements. Progress measured in consistency, not applause. That suited me. By the time the business crossed its first major milestone, 10 years had almost passed since the night I left. That timeline felt strange to consider. Time moved faster once survival ended. Growth compressed it further. Looking forward felt natural now. Plans extended beyond the next month. Goals reached years ahead. The past stayed where it belonged, untouched, uninvited. That calm did not last. Nothing ever does. The next chapter announced itself through a screen, not a knock. A number appeared one afternoon that memory recognized before logic caught up. The number sat on the screen longer than it should have. No name attached, just digits burned into memory from years of repetition. Muscle memory almost answered before thought intervened. That pause felt familiar in a way that made my stomach tighten. 10 years collapsed into a few seconds. The room stayed quiet. No background noise. No reason to call could not be taken. The choice mattered more than the call itself. Answering meant opening something sealed for a long time. The call ended before a decision formed. The phone went still. A voicemail notification appeared seconds later. Listening took another minute. Curiosity beat caution by a narrow margin. My mother's voice filled the room. Older, tired, familiar in ways that felt uncomfortable. She spoke like time had not passed. Mentioned my name like it still belonged to her daily routine. Said they'd been thinking about me. Said they were proud. That word landed strangely. Pride had never traveled in my direction before. Hearing it now felt misplaced, like praise meant for someone else. She asked how I was doing, asked where I lived. Her tone stayed light, casual. The past did not exist in that message. The voicemail continued. Money problems came up quickly. Medical bills, stress, my sister's situation. Details stayed vague, but heavy enough to send a clear signal. The call had a purpose. That purpose did not include apology. Sitting there, phone in hand, the weight of the last decade pressed in all at once. Every couch, every late shift, every missed holiday, none of it acknowledged, none of it referenced. The silence between leaving and this call remained untouched. No anger surged. That surprised me. The feeling that followed was sharper. Recognition. This moment had been predicted without being planned for. Success changes how absence is remembered by others. Distance becomes temporary once usefulness returns. I did not call back that day. The voicemail stayed saved. Listening again confirmed what instinct already knew. The message centered on the present, not the past. Needs now outweighed damage then. Days passed. Work continued. Meetings filled the calendar. Focus wavered more than usual. That number stayed blocked and unblocked in cycles. Blocking felt final. Leaving it open felt risky. Avoidance worked until it did not. The second call came 3 days later. This time I answered, not of hope, out of clarity. The conversation stayed polite. She asked questions that assumed access. Where I worked, whether I was doing well. Compliments came easy, so did concern. Pride came up again, so did family. That word carried expectations I had not agreed to. She spoke about struggles like they were shared, like I had been part of the conversation all along. Then came the ask, not direct, framed as worry, framed as temporary. Help would ease things. Things would improve. Gratitude was implied, not promised. Listening felt detached. Each sentence connected back to patterns I knew well. Attention followed need. Affection followed utility. The structure had not changed. Only the circumstances had. The call ended without resolution. No commitment. No refusal. Space returned once the line went dead. The room felt heavier afterward, not because of guilt, but because a door had reopened without permission. That night, memories surfaced unfiltered. The cake, the word pause, the empty porch, the bench by the station. Those moments lined up cleanly against the present request. The contrast did not require explanation. More calls followed. Messages, too. Tone shifted slightly. Warmth cooled when responses stayed brief. Urgency crept in. Subtle pressure replaced casual interest. The pattern repeated itself without effort. Each interaction reinforced the same truth. Time had not repaired anything. Distance had simply delayed the ask. Nothing had been learned. Nothing had been acknowledged. The choice ahead sharpened. Ignoring the calls felt like avoidance. Answering them without clarity felt worse. A line needed to be drawn with intention, not silence. Preparing for that conversation took time. Not rehearsing words, but settling certainty. Doubt would invite negotiation. Certainty would end it. The past did not need defending. It only needed stating. The next call would not be about catching up. It would be about closing a loop left open for 10 years. The next call came on a weekday afternoon. No voicemail this time. No build-up. The phone rang until it stopped, then rang again minutes later. Answering felt deliberate, not reactive. The space around me stayed quiet. Nothing else mattered in that moment. My mother spoke first. Relief showed in her voice. She talked about timing, about stress, about how good it was to finally connect properly. That framing did not last long. The conversation moved where it had been heading from the start. Money came up again, this time clearer. Numbers stayed unsaid, but the problem did not. The situation was difficult. Help will make a difference. Family supports family. That line arrived right on schedule. The response came without rush. The words stayed simple. The cake came up. The day. The pause. The way leaving happened without resistance because none was offered. 10 years reduced to a few moments that never faded. Silence followed. Not shock. Calculation. Then denial softened by time. She said things had been hard back then. She said she did the best she could. She said I left without explaining. That version of events did not stand. Explanation had been attempted for years before that night. Needs had been voiced. They had been ranked lower every time. Leaving was not sudden. It was delayed. The conversation shifted tone. Frustration replaced warmth. She mentioned sacrifices made, bills paid, food provided. Those basics were presented like favors. That told me everything. Parenting was still being used as leverage. Responsibility got pushed back onto me. Helping now would show maturity. Success carried obligation. Distance had been selfish. That word landed clean. No sting left in it. The truth followed without decoration. Survival happened alone because support was not there. Growth happened alone because it had to. Wealth, such as it was, came from years no one checked on. No one asked if I was okay. No one offered help when it mattered. The reminders stayed factual. The phone never rang on birthdays. Holidays passed without messages. Silence lasted a decade. That silence taught self-reliance. It also removed debt. She brought up my sister again. Circumstances. Needs. Guilt tried one last time. It failed. Care does not require self-erasure. Support does not mean reopening wounds that never healed. The refusal stayed calm. No money would be sent. No problem would be fixed. That boundary did not come from anger. It came from experience. Fixing things now would rewrite the past into something easier to live with for them, not for me. The reaction came fast. Accusations followed. Coldness replaced connection. The conversation turned sharp. Years of control surfaced once resistance appeared. That pattern felt familiar. Seeing it clearly removed any doubt left. Ending the call felt clean. Not dramatic, just necessary. The line went dead. The room stayed quiet. The weight lifted instead of settling. Afterward, there was no rush of emotion. No shaking hands. No regret. The body responded like something overdue had finally happened. Tension eased. Breathing slowed. Messages followed over the next few days. Some angry. Some pleading. None apologetic. Each one confirmed the decision already made. Accountability never appeared. Expectation remained. Reading them felt distant. The words no longer reached inside. That detachment did not come from coldness. It came from understanding. The past had been named. The present had been defined. There was nothing left to negotiate. The relationship existed only in memory now, not in practice. The confrontation did not close the story. It clarified it. What followed would be about enforcement, not explanation. The calls did not stop right away. Frequency changed. Tone shifted again. Some messages acted like nothing had happened. Others carried anger without direction. A few tried guilt one last time. None addressed what had been said. None acknowledged the past beyond dismissing it. Blocking the number came without ceremony. No announcement. No warning. One setting changed. Silence returned immediately. That silence felt different than before. It was chosen, not inherited. Life continued without interruption. Work filled the days. Planning filled the weeks. Momentum did not slow. If anything, focus sharpened. Energy no longer leaked toward unresolved noise. Occasionally, curiosity surfaced. Not about them, but about whether cutting contact would feel heavier later. Time answered that quickly. Weeks passed. Nothing collapsed. Nothing felt missing. The absence blended into routine the same way it had years earlier. Distance held its ground. No alternate numbers appeared. No emails. No third parties reached out. That confirmed what had always been true. Effort only existed when access was possible. The story settled without drama. No final conversation. No closure speech. Just a door, closed the same way it had been opened. Quietly. Without witnesses. Looking back, the decision did not feel cruel. It felt proportional. Energy follows care. Care requires reciprocity. That equation had never balanced. The life built over 10 years remained intact. It did not require justification. Stability stayed. Freedom stayed. Growth stayed. None of it depended on approval from people who had already shown how easily attention could be withdrawn. The past stayed where it belonged. Not erased. Not rewritten. Just no longer in control of the present. Memory existed without influence. That separation mattered. Narrating this now does not come from bitterness. It comes from accuracy. Some families teach through presence. Others teach through absence. Both leave lessons. Mine taught self-reliance early and reinforced it later. No celebration followed. No sense of victory. Just continuity. Days stacked the same way they had before the call. Work done. Plans made. Life lived without interruption. The cake from that night never came up again. It did not need to. The moment carried its meaning without repetition. Some symbols do their job once and stay quiet forever. Distance remained the final choice. Not because reconciliation was impossible, but because it was never offered on equal terms. That truth did not change. The story ends without resolution because resolution was not required. Peace came from alignment, not agreement. The door stayed closed. The life ahead stayed open. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and lets us bring you more and better stories.